Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Um, where I am here with this. Okay. Um, so today is the 21st of November. It's about 8:26 in the morning, and we're having a nice day today. Um, 86 high. I got the window open. Tomorrow 85, then we go to 82, then 78. Then we're supposed to get rain on Tuesday, and the temperature will go down, and then the sun comes out again, and we get more nice weather. I've seen it go right into well into December with good weather. Even the end of December, and you know that I'm not complaining. And I've seen the winter end in mid-February. So hopefully we get that. The winters are very difficult here. Um, I mean, there's no snow, there's no freezing, there's no frost, no slush, no sleet, no hail, nor shoveling snow unless you live on the mountains like Mount Hermon, or, you know, but you generally never get it. Um, okay, so today we're going to talk about Netanyahu's, went to a social media guy I follow and quote his stuff on my Telegram often, and gave him like a state of the nation address. Not exactly, but something like that. I'll go through that with you. Um, the Arab states, not just Saudi Arabia, but including Saudi Arabia, are pressuring Trump to create a Palestinian state by using their investments in America to do it, and Trump is submitting to them. Okay, so God is not going to enjoy that, and Trump won't either. Nor will America. Then we go from there. Um, there was, okay, I'll tell you this now. It's not worth spending a lot of time on. There's an underground trolley thing in the Capitol, and it had a fire down there yesterday, and people are sitting there screaming, ah. Okay. Um, we'll talk about the F-35 sale to Saudi Arabia, plus other things, and we'll get into gold and silver, and we'll go through the normal routine. Okay. If I detect any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, I'm going to interrupt the broadcast and get all of you believers to agree with me, and we're going to lay some spiritual warfare on these people. That is not going to be nice. I'm going to take it to a new level, okay? And you'll have a good time laughing when you hear what I'm going to come up with. Just let them try it again, and we'll keep it up. And you shall see. Okay, if they don't do it, then I'm fine. They want to start up with me, we're going to lay it on them. They can't win. Okay, let me go into the live stream and get disgusted at the new YouTube layout, and I'll put a post up, and then we'll get going. Okay, let me go into the live stream and get disgusted at the new YouTube layout. All right, people are coming in. I got sound and picture, and let me figure out how to get my post up real quick, and we'll get going. Oh, there I am. What happened? Stupid thing. Try it again. Boy, I'll tell you, this new layout drives me nuts. Okay, trying again here with this retarded thing they did to us. All right, I got this, and took care of that. Oh, I can't stand this new layout. All right, got it done. Okay. Since we're a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so let's go through what's going on. Trump's given Saudi Arabia 48 F-35s. However, before this goes anywhere, the Pentagon and the Congress have to approve it. Do I think they will approve it? Yeah, I do. He also sold them 300 tanks. But we're being told that they're not getting the most advanced F-35s, the ones that Israel gets. Well, I don't know about that, but Israel modifies the F-35s, which I'm rather certain Saudi Arabia doesn't have the brains to do. This kid that runs Saudi Arabia, he's I mean, this guy's very, very fat. Like, I would say he's 150, 200 pounds overweight. You look at his hands, how fat they are. This character goes to great pains to conceal his obesity, tremendous pains. Now, when he's not out in the public eye, he probably doesn't give a hoot, but when he's in the public eye, he puts on all these robes and, rags on the head and everything else, so covers it up. So I don't know if he's going to get all 48, and what's the time frame on 48? Oh, I would say 2 years till he got them all. He might get a few by the spring, but till he got a good amount of them, I would say 2 years till he got all of them. Then he's going to need refueling tankers because he's intending to hit Iran with them if he has to. So he's, I don't know where he's going to get those. Those are not that complicated. I mean, America will sell those. Other people will sell them. Uh, he probably has a few. And he's going to buy a lot of stuff from America. What the Arab states are doing, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and they're saying, okay, Trump, we'll invest in your country, but we want a clear path to a Palestinian state. Now, let's talk about why. Now, if you think these guys running these countries are really Muslims, I can't really help you too much, okay? They're straight up Satan bots that serve the unclean spirits, worship them, and know that they're serving unclean spirits and the devil, Satan, and worshiping him. They know it, okay? This is a front with the religions, like Trump with the Christian business. He's not Christian, you know. Okay, so they're just playing games. All right. The demons explain the scriptures to them, and they know very well that they're squatting on Israel's land. And that the land covenant that Jehovah gave Israel in Genesis 15 goes from the Euphrates to the Nile. The Nile River goes all the way down to those falls. I forgot the name of it, but it goes very far down. And it covers Egypt to the east of the Nile, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, east to the Nile, and then it covers Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, again, only east of the Nile River. Then you cross the Red Sea, and it covers all of Saudi Arabia. It covers Yemen, which is Edom, but it gets destroyed so bad nobody lives there anymore. It covers Jordan, which up in the north is called Ammon, and they submit to Israel and do pretty good. Mid-Jordan and South Jordan is Moab, and it gets destroyed. I'm not sure if anybody ever lives there again. It covers Syria only to the west of the Euphrates River. It covers Iraq to the west of the Euphrates River. It covers Turkey to the west of the Euphrates River, which is 2/3. And we get all of Lebanon, and we get Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman. That's it. It's about 100 times larger than the Israel we have today. So Satan tells these people they gotta get busy, or Israel's going to have their land. That's why they're so adamant of making sure Israel can't expand its land. They're afraid of losing their land. These are morons. They're royal families. They're idiots, believe me. They can't do anything. They mostly hire foreign workers to make their oil work for them. But what do? They sell dates or raisins or something. They don't have any brains. Did you ever buy a television, a camera, a watch, a phone, a car, a motorcycle, an airplane, medical equipment that was manufactured in any of these Muslim Arab states? Have you ever seen or heard of it at all? How many Nobel Prizes did they win? See what I'm saying? You got the idea? Okay. So the royal families play dictator, okay? And they sit there just lavishing themselves. When they started out with the oil revenue, or maybe 100 years ago or something like that, what they were doing was they were buying railroad trains. Okay, you could check this stuff out. they'd buy 2 or 3 cars, and they'd have the cars all decked out, beautiful, and everything like that. And they would lay a few 100 meters of track, and they go up and down on the track. Like a kid with a toy car. They would have dug an artificial lake, I don't know, a half a mile, maybe something like that, or less even, and they'd buy a big yacht and have it delivered, which was a big elaborate process, and put in the lake, and there was no way to go. They would just float around in a little lake with their yacht. And then came the Rolls Royces and the Mercedes and the jewelry and all that crap. Okay? They don't do artwork. They got expensive racehorses, bulls, camels. They race camels, falcons, and stuff like that, predatory birds. Hawks, I guess. Eagles, maybe. I don't know. They can't do anything. So, Saudi got a bunch of foreigners. They bring foreign doctors in, nurses. They pay them pretty good. And they live in communities, in apartments generally, that are, foreigners, and I think they're allowed in those places to have alcoholic beverages and different things, but they don't mingle around too much with the general population, I guess. So they're telling Trump they're going to invest big money, but Trump got to dance to their music, and dance Trump will, because he's going to probably get kickbacks some way, some shape, or form. They're going to go over there and start a factory and spend $79 million setting up a factory. There's, Trump's going to be involved in that. Whoever sells the land and does the construction, which could be his family, is going to come out. These guys, Saudi and etc., the rest of them are not going to go buy bonds and stocks. They're going to invest. Some got stuck in my throat. I'm drinking soup, and there was a little piece of mushroom in there or something. So these guys are going to do stuff, put businesses there and stuff like that. But they don't know how to do it, so they got to get, investors. Now, years ago, maybe 50 years, 60 years ago, they started sending some of their royal family children for educations. I went to Oxford, Harvard, Yale, and places like that. And the family would contribute money to let them in, buy them a wing or a building or something like that. I'm not sure they ever really went to school there. I mean, they did physically go there, but I'm not so sure they were able to assimilate the material in English. I think it was a put on. A few of them probably did. Back in the 60s and 70s, there were a few of them that learned how to do investments. And they started investing their money in other countries. If you go to Switzerland and you stay in the nice hotels, the 5-star near where the banks are, you go in the hotels. I've had a lot of people tell me this. They have dining rooms there that are Muslims only. Now, some of them have their own banks now in Switzerland. Over the many years, they've just accumulated a fantastic amount of wealth, and they're terrible to their people. Their people don't live well. People don't live well. They live well, but not their people. The royal family, that's about it. Now, if you grew up there and you're a Muslim and a good guy and you went to college and you wanted to build something, a hotel, a mall, you might be able to go to the government if you had enough clout to do that and pitch it. And if they thought it was a good deal, they may back it, and then you might make yourself some money, but you're not going to get like them. You might wind up with 20 or 40 or 50 million in the bank, something like that. You're not going to wind up like them. Saudi Arabia is basically a closed country. They open it up for the Muslim holidays, the jihad, because they got that Black Rock thing there. And every year Muslims go there, and every year a bunch get killed. Riots, or they stampede each other, or something bad happens. It's crazy. And they keep going. Saudi is basically scared of Iran and her puppets. That's the big fear Saudi Arabia has. If you haven't figured it out yet, these Muslim countries are not good warriors either. How many people in Saudi Arabia are they going to find that can fly fighter jets? Well, not that many. You're not going to get into pilot school in Saudi Arabia unless you're in the royal family. Or if they're worried, they hire mercenaries from, military from other countries, retired. That know what they're doing, but that probably costs them $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year per pilot, in times of trouble. They have nuclear submarines, and I understand they can't operate them. They have to hire mercenaries to operate them. They run an efficient police department. And the police department is going to enforce car theft and burglary and all of that, but they also protect and control the protection of the state. And if somebody's messing around, they'll just shoot them in the street. They're not worried about losing their job or anything. That's never going to happen. It's a really a rotten country, as they all are. They have no human rights to speak of. They certainly don't like women, and they discriminate against them. They're dictatorships. The royal family is essentially exempt from any law. Horrible people. Now we get to gays for Palestine. And this is a mystery because it's rather well known that the Muslims will take gay people and throw them off a roof head first. There's videos of it. They hang them by their feet. The people hold them by their feet. The people are in terror, and they talk to them and explain why they're doing it, and it terrifies the person, and then they drop them. So they drag it out. They make it painful. Now, one of the hostages from Gaza, a guy, came out and said what they did to him. He was told to take a shower. He was probably filthy. He was being starved and everything. So he went into a shower and he was taking a shower. Then the guy grabbed him and took him out of the shower and molested him. He sexually raped the guy. And the Israeli guy was saying, "What, are you kidding me? It's forbidden in Islam to do this." And he said he had a pistol and he said, "If you tell anybody, I'll kill you." And he raped the guy, right? Okay. People on October 7th were saying that the Muslim invaders were raping men. Men were raping men also. So my opinion as a guess, why you have Queers for Palestine, is these people in Queers for Palestine know that a good amount of these Muslims are really homosexual. And they're trying to win over the Muslims to homosexuality so they have more people to engage in perversion with. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. That's why they keep backing Hamas. They want Hamas to get friendly with the gay people. Well, not just Hamas, all the Muslims to get friendly with the gay people and get them to the point where, being gay is okay. Look, back in the 70s, maybe even into the 80s in America, being homosexual had a psychiatric code in the diagnosis book. It was a mental illness. They got that removed, and that's what they're trying to do with the Islam, get them to not, discriminate, you could say, against homosexuality. There you go. They were also raping women, and a very large amount, I think, all the women that were there later on, I don't know, they killed a lot of women. Why they killed them is most likely because they kept raping them and the women were not exactly pleased with it. And, they probably got beat up, and eventually they just killed them. They gang raped them, and, sick things like that. Okay, moving forward. In the shadow of the intensification of Israeli strikes in Lebanon in recent days, the American news agency Bloomberg reports the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Najib Mikhail, if I got that right, who knows, says that our country is ready for negotiations with Israel and he is interested in American assistance to advance the matter. What this is another buy time thing. That's all. We're going to negotiate, but you have to suspend the attacks against, the Hezbollah in Lebanon during the negotiations. We can't negotiate while you're attacking us. And then they'll get Trump to say the same thing, and that moron will tell Israel to stop attacking during the negotiations. And Trump will have to, Netanyahu will have to listen to Trump, and that's what's going to happen. And then Hezbollah will use that time to rebuild. And they'll drag it out for months if they can. Maybe Netanyahu won't cooperate with that. I don't know. He's a little scared they'll kill him too. So he may not cooperate. Netanyahu is a big target for Hamas, for Iran, for Hezbollah, for the Houthis. They all want to get him. Okay. The EU tells Israel to stand down, but offers no plan to stop. This is regarding Hezbollah. In Lebanon, the European Union has publicly condemned Israel's recent strikes in Lebanon against Hezbollah, calling them violations of last year's ceasefire agreement. Well, Hezbollah is basically building up again to go to war with us. Brussels insists Israel relies solely on diplomatic mechanisms, which don't work. We've tried and it doesn't work. The problem when Hezbollah rearms and shifts towards terror, that's the alternative, just waiting. So good old Europe, gladly they're gutless wonders right now. Okay. No business, no buses or trains running on Shabbat. This was a good thing. Sometimes we get good laws. Not often, but occasionally it does get there. So the Knesset that's our Congress, one house Congress, 120 seats, rejected the bill for Shabbat public transportation on buses and trains. We have two kinds of trains. The low rail, it's like a streetcar with tracks in the road that rides kind of, 6 or 8 inches off the ground or something like that. Flat rail, I think you might call it. Light rail is another word. And then we have real trains and we have buses. The real trains are pretty nice here. They don't go like 150, 200 miles an hour. They go around 80, 85 all out. They're not very fast. But you got to understand, Israel is not a very large country. In places like Japan and China and other countries, they run these 160, 180 mile an hour trains for 2 or 3 hours, where Israel doesn't need to do that. You could go from, Tel Aviv or Jerusalem it's pretty quick. Israel's small right now. Okay. So that was the good news. So they wanted to bring it up and get the national government to turn the buses and the trains on. The ultra Orthodox parties opposed this law, saying it violates Jewish tradition. Well, I would say the law, but they didn't word it that way. Um, so they wanted to ease public transportation on the Sabbath for people that don't own cars, that are secular and don't obey the laws of the Bible. Now, the bad side to this is not anything that Congress did this week, but cities like Tel Aviv and Haifa offer limited weekend transportation, and that is not done, I believe, rather confidently, I think that it's not being done by the national government of Israel. It's being done by the city. They can have their own bus lines easy enough, and that's not a hard thing for them. And it would be just very limited traffic. It wouldn't be, heavy duty because it's just the cities, and that would be what they're doing. So now I think they used to do it in Tiberias, but a lot of Orthodox moved in there and they stopped. But you can drive a car on Sabbath if you want to. Nobody is going to tell you can't operate a car. Like in Jerusalem on Sabbath, they suspend the parking regulations. So you can park in a bus stop on the Sabbath. So starting about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, something like that. I guess it depends where you are in the time of year, but you can park your car in a bus stop and you could leave it there till Saturday night, but then you got to move it because they start running the buses in the night. You got to get it out of there and stuff like that. You don't have to put any money in a parking meter or anything, things of this nature. Okay. In Venezuela, a massive explosion occurred at a crude oil and chemical processing plant in Anzoátegui, however you pronounce that, in Venezuela, one of the country's main energy centers. They don't know what caused this explosion. So you always have to say, well, it could have been an accident, but now we're believing in coincidence. It was probably something coming from America. The mayor-elect of New York City is going to meet with Trump today. I'll be curious to see how that goes. I'm rather sure Trump isn't going to sit there and say, well, Mr. Muslim Mayor, I respect your decision to not follow federal law and just follow international law, and you get to decide who can get into the UN and who has an arrest record in New York, and we're going to arrest them and turn them over to Europe. So I respect your decisions, and, good luck to you. No, Trump's going to tell me he's going to put him in jail. That's what's going to happen. Gaza journalists are saying the IDF is pushing the yellow line westward. Now, that's a line where Israel is still occupying Gaza, and they're pushing it more towards the sea to take more land. I believe it is true. The journalists from Gaza are saying IDF forces are pushing the yellow concrete barriers, marking the yellow line westward towards the sea. According to these sources, the yellow line markings in the Shaf area in eastern Gaza City have been moved, and even new markings have been placed alongside the advance of Israel tanks during the night under artillery cover in this area. It was also reported that the new situation has led to Gazan residents who were in this area being surrounded and unable to leave their homes, which have become within the yellow line area of under Israel Central. So their house was west of the yellow line and they were okay. Now it's inside the yellow line area. It's on the right-hand side or the east side of the yellow line, and it's in Israel occupied, militarily occupied land, so they don't particularly feel comfortable hanging around there with the tanks and the Humvees and, stuff like that. Well, that's a problem for them. I'm not going to sit up and worry about it. They're enemies of God, they're enemies of Israel, they're enemies of the Jews, they're enemies of America. They say first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. America is basically the Sunday people. Hamas spokesperson, yeah, I covered that. Let me get rid of that. Hamas spokesperson Hazem Kazim, the Zionist occupation, that's us, Zionist occupier here, is committing a blatant violation of the agreement in its ongoing efforts to move the yellow line westward on a daily basis, resulting in the mass displacement of our people. And, we shouldn't worry about them keeping the hostages, torturing them, raping them. No, we don't want to worry about that, Saying they're going to disarm and not have anything to do with the governing of Gaza and then changing their mind. No. Is anybody going to do anything about this yellow line thing? Well, if they ever get a military defense force inside Gaza to disarm Hamas, yeah. But we'll talk about that momentarily. According to the UK official statements, a Russian vessel is accused of using lasers in a provocative action near the UK coastline, actually Scotland's coast. That's what I picked up, Scotland coast, which is part of the UK. The vessel is the Yantar, Yantar. Sounds like Yenter. Yenta, not Yantar, but maybe we can make fun of that. A Yenter is a kibbutz, or what's a kibbutz? Somebody that's a backbiter and tells stories and talks about people behind their back. And then you got Yenta Kalabenta, which is a super Yenta. That's Yiddish, that's not Hebrew. Okay, it's a Russian, what is it? The vessel is, this Yantar, a Russian spy under the sea research ship. It's shining the laser at pilots in UK aircraft. On 19th of November, which is not far away, because not, today's 21. So, I mean, it's pretty recent news, I would have to say. The UK's Defense Secretary John Healey stated that the Yantar directed lasers at British aircraft, specifically RAF, Royal Air Force, surveillance aircraft, while operations off the north of Scotland in or near UK waters. The UK regards this as a deeply dangerous escalation and has indicated military options are ready if the ship moves further south. That is really pretty wild, and I don't know what kind of lasers they're shooting, and how powerful they are. Lasers could really be a good laser in about maybe a quarter of a second or less, flashing in the eyes, can cause pretty darn permanent damage. They're very dangerous. So I don't understand what kind of laser they're doing it with, but it's definitely troubling. A Muslim, I believe in the UK, trying to disturb the Christian celebration before Christmas by loudly reciting Quran verses. In Italy, the Pope's not going to think that's cricket. No, the Pope is going to have to come out with a statement against Satan's chosen people that they ought to cut that out, but I don't believe they'll do it in the Vatican, because the Vatican police would just probably throw them out of the Vatican or arrest them or something like that. Okay, now this is very important. The Rio Grande River is, a river between Texas and America, or America, we could say America and Mexico. And the term wetback, it came from the Mexicans would swim or walk across the Rio Grande, walk and swim. Then come into America. And this being done in the 50s and 60s was not very strictly observed. I mean, they just let them alone a lot of times. In the 60s, the Border Patrol started a policy when they picked these Mexican wetbacks, if you want to call them that, up. What they did is they brought them in, they booked them, put them in custody, and they shaved their heads. Then they would take them back in a bus inside Mexico. Mexico didn't care, and release them in Mexico. So what that did is your hair wouldn't grow back for 2 months, 3 months. So if the Mexicans came right back, which was their practice, get put back in Mexico, maybe say hello to the family for a few days and then come right back. They would be very easy to pick up, because when you saw them walking around, you'd see their shaved head, and that wasn't their practice to shave their head. That stopped in the late 60s, in the hippie days. It stopped. Yeah. But I remember talking to the Border Patrol guys. I was a deputy sheriff back a million years ago, and they used to reminisce about how good it was when they shaved their head. So, all right. So the Rio Grande is drying up. Parts of it near Albuquerque, that's New Mexico, have already hit dry dust. I mean, it cracked earth, dry earth. You walk on it and you don't get wet. You don't get muddy feet. And they call it the sand. You see the sand on the river bottom, and this is happening in all the locations too. It's not just one place. The Rio Grande, not only is it the barrier for the illegals to cross, it also provides drinking water to 15 million people in America and in Mexico. They put various sea or water barriers in the Rio Grande to make it more difficult for them to cross in areas that it's hard to observe. And it's prophecy, because it says he's going to dry up the rivers and the waters in America in Jeremiah 50:51. And this is a rather extreme example. In addition, it talks about them coming in from Mexico, destroying the walls. Well, the only walls America has is between Mexico and America, destroying those walls. Well, the walls are another thing that'll come down, but this is a real big problem. Let's see how many miles the Rio Grande has on the, in the borders with America. Let's see. How many miles long is the Rio Grande in terms of it being like on the border between Mexico and America? The amount of the Rio Grande River on the border is 1,254 miles. The total length of the Rio Grande is 1,885 miles. but the portion that actually serves as an international border between Mexico and the U.S. is 1,254. So, rough cut, about a third of it is not as a separating border. It probably meanders around and stuff. Okay. So, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It really is. Um, so you got to understand that it already happened. There's dry spots. So when you have dry spots, then the water's not moving. So they're downplaying this. These dry spots are very difficult for America to defend. I mean, you're talking. Do you know how many soldiers you'd need to defend 1,200 miles? You can't put a squad of soldiers every 10 miles. It's not going to do that much, you know. But let's say you did. Okay. So if you put the soldiers in every 10 miles, how many little camps of soldiers would you need? 1,254 divided by 10. That'd be 125 little encampments. You could do that, but it'd be a massive effort. So, this is a significant problem to America for sleeper agents and just general swarming in from Mexico. And it's not the type of thing that's coming, it's already here. Dry spots, miles of it. They walk across at night. You can walk across at night in the winter on a dry spot. What's the difference? Overnight, Israeli settlers established an illegal outpost southeast of Bethlehem overnight. Well, Netanyahu is very afraid of people not following the law because they'll overthrow him because of all the bad things he does. So he's going to drop on them with like a ton of bricks. Netanyahu was running around telling us, oh, we just had the 1,000th aircraft coming from America bringing us supplies and equipment for the war. Since the war started, there's been 1,000 flights from America bringing us stuff. So he was good enough to talk about it. Saudi is wanting to get guarantees from Trump that there'll be a Palestinian state within 5 years. He wants guarantees, or he's not putting the money in. After meeting Trump in the White House, the Saudi prince, Elon Musk was there. So I think the Saudi wants artificial intelligence investments or something. I don't know. Whatever the jerk's name is, the Saudi prince, said the United States must guarantee negotiations for a Palestinian state within 5 years. He also stressed that no Muslim troops will join any international force in Gaza. And I think this guy from Saudi Arabia knows what's going on. So, Muslim nations will not take part. The question becomes, they're not going to join this peacekeeping force that's supposedly going to demilitarize Hamas and keep them from governing Gaza. The question becomes, who would keep the peace in Gaza? Well, I mean, I don't think England and France are going in. I mean, I don't know, Israel. But that's the occupation force. So this is another failure of Trump waiting to be realized. It failed. So one very likely possibility is this international force is never going to be formed. It will emerge as a toothless framework similar to the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon. It's a joke. The actors most likely to confront Hamas would remain those fighting it now, which is like Israel. So essentially, Trump's plan has fallen apart. Now, does that mean Saudi Arabia is going to keep investing money in America? Well, yeah, because if he wants to get those, um, 48 F-35 jets and the 300 tanks, yeah, he's got to do that. But so far, the sale of the tanks has not been approved by the Pentagon or the Congress. Trump's not going to use his military to fight in Gaza against Hamas, so it'll either be nobody or Israel. Saudi Arabia said they were putting 500 million into the United States in investments a while ago. 500 billion, rather, not million, billion with a B. And Trump said that he believes it's going to be $1 trillion now. He may have squeezed Saudi Arabia for the extra investments to get the jets. Nobody else is going to sell advanced stealth jets to the Saudis. That's going to make that jackass sleep better at night, I suppose. So every time they want something from Trump, Trump's going to say he wants investments in America for the economy. Everything with Trump is all about the economy. There's people on the internet writing rumors about Trump doing the $2,000 tariff stipend to the people via a executive order, but Trump has never said that. Trump's latest statement is he's hoping to do it sometime in mid 2026. So this is just people hyping it so they can sell you something. Clickbait. There's 6 congressmen in the United States that are veterans of the war, and they're telling the American soldiers that they don't have to obey an unlawful order even if Trump gives it to them. Now, the problem here, well, let me give you more background. A group of 6 Democrat members of Congress, all with military intel background, released a video in which they told active duty service members that they don't have to follow orders that are unlawful. They're right. So if Trump were to say, okay, I want you to go kill all the Jewish babies in America, they'd say, well, we're not doing that. And then Trump couldn't do anything to him. But this is probably more or less directed at the National Guard going into the cities to help ICE take care of the illegals. And that is something that Trump might be able to do when it may not be an unlawful order. See, the problem is, who the heck knows what's a lawful and an unlawful order? Nobody. Not true. In the extremes, they know. Going around and committing genocide on people that speak Chinese would, that's an unlawful order. But we don't know what the heck Trump is doing. Well, Trump exploded. And he started making posts and saying, this is sedition, and sedition carries the death penalty in America. Well, it's not sedition. You see, Trump is going off the deep end here. This is another example of prophecy fulfillment, ruler against ruler. These congressmen going against Trump. So the congressmen write laws, and laws are rules. So it's ruler against ruler. The problem with the sedition is you've got to be active in doing things to, divide the country. Telling soldiers a lawful thing, you don't have to obey an unlawful order. That's not sedition on the part of the congressman. For the soldiers doing it, it could be sedition. It depends what the order is, and then it would go further down the line. What did the soldiers do to determine if it was a lawful or an unlawful order? You see? It's not so simple. But it shows you that something's going on. So deployment or use of the military, including the National Guard, in domestic law enforcement of security roles, that they clash with restrictions such as the Passe Comitatus Act, U.S. military strikes on drug smuggling vessels, in the Caribbean, there are people challenging that. I'm not so sure what the deal is with that. That's international waters. I don't know. They're not exactly pirates, so I don't know why America thinks they have jurisdiction to blow them out of the water. That's a good point. In general, the idea that a service member must follow the chain of command unless the order is clearly unlawful, which is significant but often ambiguous in real life. So, in short, the lawmaker's message was a general reminder of existing law that if an order is illegal, you must refuse it. This is pretty odd. And I don't know what kind of damage it's going to do. I don't know. IDF intelligence from Beit Hanun. The city of Beit Hanun is a central Hamas terror stronghold in Gaza. So this is a Gaza city. Underground beneath houses, Hamas built an extensive tunnel network. Above ground, thousands of structures served as weapons storage facilities, firing positions, and command centers for terrorists. Additionally, armed terrorists operated from inside an elementary school and beneath it there's a tunnel that leads to another underground tunnel. Remember that? Okay, so this was, just showing they would get up between residential buildings and commercial buildings with missile launchers and launch missiles and then go back underground. So that's what they were doing. I remember that. So if we attacked the missile launcher, you would cause damage to houses, hotels, office buildings, stores, whatever. Remember that the Hamas terrorists that were trapped in the Rafah tunnel, about 200, most of them were wanted. That's why they were there. And what were they doing in the tunnel to start with, right? They weren't just little innocent people. How innocent little people can't just go walk in a Hamas tunnel. They get killed. So, it appears that all communication with these people in the tunnel has been lost since last weekend. Most of them were killed by IDF operations, and the others died from lack of food and from lacking the basic wisdom to do the right thing and turn themselves in. They ran out of water also. Now we're getting what's called environmental terrorism from the terrorists in Israel, the Muslim terrorists. Over 250,000 Israelis along the Samaria barrier, that's the West Bank, the media calls it, are being choked by toxic Palestinian waste fires. The smoke is relentless. Children can't breathe. Parents can't. So they're poisoning the settlers. It's horrible. There's about 400,000 settlers total, but some of them are in areas where it's not affecting them. It's getting the children, it's saying parents seal their homes only to wake up coughing in the night. A lot of the homes are mobile homes, not motor homes, mobile homes. This isn't just neglect, it's environmental terrorism, and it's spreading. In Modin, 18 miles from Jerusalem, they logged over 1,000 complaints last month alone, 1,000 complaints in a month for these fires. So let me jump into the live stream and see if we're getting questions, and then I'll tell you about Netanyahu's sort of ad hoc State of the Nation address he made to a social media guy that I follow. Do things rather accurately. He doesn't really do the fear mongering and stuff like that. What are my thoughts on Gabe? I don't know who Gabe is. Sorry, I can't help you. Am I going to repeat everything I says? Well, sometimes I make a point and I say it over again. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. Hey, cut the house howling, okay? All right. So this is not an official State of the Union address, but it gives you an idea of Netanyahu's verbal policies. Now, Netanyahu, you wind him up, you put him in front of the camera, all these great things come out of his mouth and no follow-up. He's just a two-bit punk politician, Satan bot to the core. All right. Renewed American commitment. After the Prime Minister's conversations last night with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Netanyahu says that Rubio promised him that the U.S. will maintain Israel's military superiority, especially in the context of selling F-35 aircraft to Saudi Arabia. There is also a practical aspect to this. Well, what might happen is Trump's developing a new aircraft, 47 and F-47. He's the 47th president, I think. So he might give Israel 5 or 10 of those early on to offset Saudi Arabia. You got to remember that Saudi Arabia can study the F-35 when they have them and learn how to defeat them. Do I think the Saudis could do that? Never. They're missing the cerebral part of that. Nah. Okay. So that's one way he screws the Saudi Arabians. They thought they were getting some good, shoe up in defenses, but they wind up getting pushed back in the background because now the F-47 is the jet to get. I don't know when that'll happen or if, I'm just guessing. Okay, next. Netanyahu hints that there will not be a Palestinian state. He hints, right? Can't believe this piece of garbage, Netanyahu. Even at the price of normalization with Saudi Arabia, nevertheless, Netanyahu expresses optimism regarding the chances for normalization. Not everything said publicly is said in closed doors, he said. Okay, let's talk. The Saudis will, if there ever is normalization or Abrahamic Accords with those pieces of garbage, those rotten, stinking dictators, what they'll do is buy weapons from Israel, which Israel will sell to them. Iron Domes would be a big one. If they could buy the laser weapon, the Iron Beam, they would do that too. Missiles, and things like that, right? So what would that do? That would help our military-industrial complex, which is all owned, operated, and controlled by Satan bots. Do you think they would ever give a non-Satan bot a license to make and sell weapons? Oh, you don't know anything about Satan and the way he works if you think that. No way. Is any of that going to filter down to the people? Well, yeah, there's going to be people they'll get jobs with these weapons industries, wage earners, more wage earning jobs, more overtime. Yeah, but so what? That's not that significant, right? Okay. The taxes are going to go to Netanyahu's government, which he's going to participate in somehow, some way, some shape or form, I expect, in my opinion only. And the government, Elbit and the weapons manufacturers will do well. The stock will go up. They'll get richer. It's basically making the rich richer. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to do anything for the people of Israel. Netanyahu hates the people of Israel, apparently, except the Satan bots. He's not going to do anything for them. Netanyahu clarifies that Israel strongly opposes the sale of F-35s to Turkey, unlike Saudi Arabia, and says the possibility that the U.S. will supply Turkey with F-35s is very low if it exists at all. I concur. Turkey's too out there for Trump to mess around with. So, no, I don't think it's going to happen. No. During the interview, Netanyahu hinted that in his view, the intense phase of the war is over, Gaza war, while adding that we can return to fighting in any sector. So he's just saying we can start the fighting again anywhere, and he's correct. or it'll start, it won't be us. And here, yeah, that's the correct statement. Independence in armaments. Netanyahu presents a strategic move, a decade-long plan to create independent armament capability with minimal dependence on the U.S. or any other international entity. Yeah, he's already started this quite a while ago. In some ways, bullets, ammo, artillery, He won't make a jet fighter. If he made one, it would be the best one, but he won't do it because America will hate him for that. Netanyahu, the decision to enter Gaza City and its execution were what led to the release of the hostages. They didn't like that because they were surrounded in Gaza City and it was going to be doom and destruction on them. And then Trump came up with all these idiot peace plan things, trying to get a Nobel Prize at our expense. Rafah crossing. It'll be open for Gazans wishing to leave the Strip after the completion of the phase of returning the bodies of the hostages and the fallen. Calls on Egypt to allow Gazans to leave the Strip through the Rafah crossing. Well, Egypt may not want that because they'll come into Egypt and they won't leave Egypt. So he doesn't want that necessarily. The Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox recruitment. Netanyahu presents an exact numerical target of 17,000 Haredi recruits within 3 years while attempting to reach agreement with most parties in the system. This is draft evasion. The number needs to be 80 to 90,000, and that should be in a year. That's how many there are, 80 to 90,000. 17, that's like 6,000 a year. It should be 80, 90,000 in the first year, or maybe a year and a half. So he's up to his old rotten, stinking, corrupt tricks with the ultra orthodox. Next, Netanyahu clarifies that he will arrive in New York despite Mamdani's statement. He will despite Mamdani saying he will try to arrest him because he has a warrant from the International Court. Trump can protect him from that, On an agreement with Syria, it is preferable to have an agreement with Syria, but the principles of defending our frontiers with Syria and our friends, the Druze, will be maintained in any case with or without an agreement. So he's backing the Druze, which there's a sufficient amount of them in Syria that are fighters, and they're allying themselves with Israel. And if some sort of war breaks out between Israel and Syria, which has happened in the past, obviously the Druze would be opposed to Syria, who's been genociding them, And they took their wives and children hostage, some of the other Shiite Muslims and Sunni Muslims that are violent in Syria, and never returned them, as far as I know. So it would give Israel kind of a bayonet in the back of Syria, to watch themselves, or we would just equip the Druze better and give them more intel, and they would go rain havoc on Syria. That's one reason. The other reason is it makes Netanyahu popular with the Druze people in Israel because they're all very closely tied together. So we got to remember Netanyahu does speak with a forked tongue, and he says things that are not real and not true, and he's a liar, and they're all that way, though. It's not just him. All the world leaders are accomplished liars. If they weren't accomplished liars, nobody would, vote for them. They spin a web of lies as to what they're going to do, and then what they do is they make things worse for the people consistently, and the people keep falling for it. People are stupid. I don't know what else I could tell you, but they're stupid. They keep letting these guys get away with it. If America had a vote of no confidence, Biden would have been out in 2 or 3 months. So would Obama. You got a system that lets them get away with blatant lies to get elected and do things that the people hate because they get to sit there for 4 years. And that's a long time. And you got nothing but bad coming from them. When was the last time you ever had a president that accomplished anything good, where the economy got better? And I don't never known about it in America. I don't think it ever happened. So, let's see. Oh, there it is. I thought I lost my notes, but I got them. That's what we got dealing here with Netanyahu. Meanwhile, 40-50% of the people have food insecurity. People can't afford houses. They can't afford rent. They can't afford cars. It's terrible. I mean, the place is horrible, and he doesn't even speak to it. All these things he talked about with this guy, not once did he talk about jobs, reducing inflation, reducing housing prices, new budget housing, getting the food prices down, helping the people live better. Not once. This guy is a curse on Israel. Yes, he is. Half the country is suffering with food insecurity now after these wars. The tourism is nothing. We haven't had tourism with COVID. Remember him and Pfizer, what he was doing, turning all our records over to Pfizer, telling everybody they got to get vaccinated. If they're not vaccinated, they can't go out in public to certain places. Remember that? Now they want to indict that guy from Pfizer. People were getting bad, not well from the vaccinations, they're having a lot of problems. The doctor from our health plan called me up because I wasn't responding and said, "Why don't you come and get the vaccinations?" I said, "I don't believe they're safe." And he hung up on me. I insulted him. I don't care. What am I supposed to tell him? A lie? I told him the truth. He got mad and hung up. What do I care? I don't go see those people. Now the measles. There's a character that passed in Tel Aviv with measles. One person. And now they're telling everybody on the plane should get a measles shot. When I was a kid, when some kid in the neighborhood got measles, your parents would bring you over to that kid's house to play with that kid when he had measles. So you would catch measles as a young kid. They did it with the mumps, they did it with the chicken pox, and they did it with the measles. Why? Because they wanted you to catch it as a child because it was rather uncomfortable. That was about it. For a few days, and that was it. When you had the mumps, you had the swelling in the cheek area, and that was uncomfortable, but you would feel tired. I remember as a kid, you'd sleep a lot, and you were like, the most was 4 days that you had to deal with it, you know? The chicken pox, you had the marks, they itched, you put calamine on them, and you weren't very sick. You maybe had a low grade fever. It wasn't, chickenpox didn't get you too sick. And you couldn't go back to school until some of those marks went away. They watched that, and then you knew what to go with. You'd send the kid back to school. And then the measles, you had maybe a little bit more of a fever than the chickenpox, but not that much. And then you got the measles, you know. There was no vaccinations for this. And the parents wanted the kids to get exposed to it so they didn't catch it as an adult. Now they're running around like crazy. Oh, you got to get vaccinated. It wasn't that serious. Now, I remember we had a teacher. I was in the seventh grade. He was sort of a nice guy. He was a teacher, and he was a pretty good guy. Everybody sort of liked him. And he had to stay out of school for a while. He caught mumps as an adult, and um, that could cause bad effects on an adult. So they were worried about him. But he bounced back, came in. I think he was out for a week or something like that. Um, so most of us, when we were adults, wouldn't catch these things because we had it already. And then they come along now and they tell you that, well, your immunity may have worn off and you got to get a vaccination. Well, when this was going on way back when, we never heard of it. My parents and my grandparents never caught it from the kids. So their immunity didn't go away. So they'd want you to catch it. So I had all three. I don't know, maybe now they don't do that. They just vaccinate the kids, and I don't know what's up with those vaccinations. I remember many years ago in the 90s, they were screaming and yelling, the flu shots, the flu shots. Those were the days when they were trying to predict what flu epidemic would be and give you the right vaccine. So the way it worked in Florida was you went to the supermarket, and I think they ran the vaccines back in September, October, November, and then I think that maybe December. I don't know. There was a point where they said it was too late. It wouldn't work. So I got in on it. When the head of nurse there doing it, you had to pay a few bucks. So while they were doing it, you still had time. So I went in there one day and I said, "Oh, I'll get the shot." So I paid her, I don't know, it was $5, $10, I don't remember. And you sit down in a chair and she puts the alcohol on, boom, she gives you a shot. And then I went home and I took Tylenol because I knew the shots give you, a fever, a light grade, like 99, 100. And then I think I took Tylenol again later that night, and then I didn't have any effect from it. Or maybe the next day I had to take Tylenol. I don't know. It hurt a little bit, but that was it. And did it work? No. I don't think it worked. And then the next year I tried it again, and I don't think it worked. Then I gave up on it. I got the idea that maybe 1 out of 5 years they'd hit it. But I didn't know it was not I shouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it anymore. I never would have done it again. But back then, I don't know how bad the vaccines were, but I didn't know any better. And that's when I was starting to learn about alternative healthcare. And I had a person that was someone I worked with was more or less a client of mine. And I never met her personally, but we talked on the phone, and she knew a lot about alternative healthcare, and she taught it to me. And then I learned how to make it work. I learned colloidal silver, different herbs, and echinacea, and the gamut. I can't remember all of them. Like garlic. So I learned how to do it, and she was teaching me the doses. That's the trick, is learning the doses and the frequency of the doses. So she told me what to take, and I woke up one morning and I had a cold, and I had the stuff in the house, and I'm taking it. Frequently, like every 2 hours, I would take a dose of one, and then 2 hours later, I would take a different herb, and I rotated them, and then by about 3 in the afternoon, my nose started to dry and open up. And I said, wow. By dinner time, it was over. I said, gee, wow, I didn't know you could do this. I was used to, you'd have the nose, you'd have congestion and a cough, and you'd feel, no, it just went away. And I was aware of it about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and at 3 o'clock it was just about gone. Then it happened again another time, and I had similar results with it. Then I started learning homeopathy. I remember I had to get a tooth taken out, and I think they were going to put a bridge in. And I had to get that. I can't remember, but I needed a tooth pulled. No, it was a wisdom tooth. I can't remember, something like that. So I went to the dentist, and they got the tooth out, and then they told me to take a tea bag and keep it in there. It stops the bleeding. So I did it. I had a friend visiting me, and I said, I gotta go buy a tire. I had a Corvette, and there was something wrong with one of my tires. They were run flats, and I needed to go to a store, and I didn't want to walk around with the tea bag. So it was a few hours later, and I took the tea bag out, and the bleeding started right away. So I put a tea bag, maybe another one, back in or something, and then I went to get my arnica, and I took, I think, 1 m of arnica, and the bleeding stopped, I would say, within 10 seconds. And I said, whoa. So I had my eyes open to all this stuff that I didn't know existed. Back in the 90s, not too many people did, or maybe by now it was already 2000 or 99 or 2000 or something like that. So people didn't know that this really existed, and I didn't. And I heard about it, I used to go to the health food store in the 70s, and they had the homeopathy display, and sore throat, headache, this, that. I didn't know how to use the stuff. I didn't understand any of it. Nobody knew it either that I knew. In San Francisco, they had stores that were selling herbs, but very few people there knew how to do it. They had a herbologist, but I didn't get anywhere with it. I tried messing around in the 80s with acupuncture. Nothing. I went to acupuncture when I had a cold. It didn't do any good, I couldn't get it from anybody. I mean, it didn't work. I wasn't. So I spoke to a guy that's once in a store with the martial arts equipment. I was buying something there, I don't remember. And it was a friendly guy, and we got to talk. And I said, when you get a cold, do you go to the acupuncture, or what do you do? And he basically told me, if you go to them, you're going to get better in about 4 days. If you take Dristan, you're going to get better in about 4 days. So he says, I just take Dristan. So I think you're basically getting better on your own in 4 days. The Dristan just would dry your sinuses up, Now, a lot of the doctors would always want to give you something to dry your sinuses up so you don't get a cough. That's, in my book, a good idea. If they got something that's good enough to get it up. They used to have stuff, they took it off the market, called Coricidin or Coricidin, that did a good job. But I'll tell you what really used to work, and they don't sell it anymore. In the 70s, they sold it. It was Contact, I believe they called it. It was a time release antihistamine, and it would make you groggy. And if I had a cold and I stayed home, I would take a Contact in the morning, and that would dry me up till the afternoon. I would take another one, and then I would take one when I went to sleep at night. And you wake up the next day, and you would be markedly dried up, but sometimes I would take Contact again the second day, and that was usually the most you ever had to do. And then you were done, and you had to drink a lot of coffee because it made you tired and goofy. And that really worked, but it doesn't surprise me that they took it off the market. It really worked, you know. It doesn't surprise me. I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay. Boy, it's a beautiful day today. We don't have that miserable summer heat with the air conditioning and the fans, and it's just nice. All right, let's go through the daughter of Babylon scriptures in Jeremiah 50 and 51 and try to get a feel for where we're at. A lot of people that don't believe that that's America's the daughter of Babylon, and maybe this will help them, but it may not. Some people just go in denial and that's it. Okay, Jeremiah 50, verse 1. The word that the Lord spake against Babylon. Now, you got to remember, it never said Babylon in the old text. It always said Babel, which means confusion. But the church people got into habit of making out like Babylon was a place, and it was. It's like the original one was like by Iraq. The daughter of Babylon's not the same as Babylon. It probably has the same unclean spirits, and that's what it's talking about. Saith the Lord, hath Israel, whoops, I'm in the wrong spot. I got down to 49. Okay. The word that Jehovah spake against Babel and against the land of the Chaldeans, those are the witches, by Jeremiah the prophet. The Chaldeans were like fortune tellers, astrology, stuff like that. Declare you among the nations, the heathens, and publish and set up a standard, a sign. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babel is taken. Bel was confounded. Bel was one of the demonic things they worshipped in Babel. But it's in America now. It's confounded. Merodach, another one, is broken in pieces. They had a statue to this thing. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. Now, the images broken in pieces could be something the Lord does. And it can also be the attackers and invaders doing it. Now, what group of people do you know that go around breaking the idols? Do the Catholics do it? No, they have their own idols. Do the Hindus do it? No, they have their own idols. Do the Buddhists do it? No, they have their own idols. Do the Jews do it? No, they expect the heathen to do this, to have idols. Do the atheists do it? No, they don't care. So who does it? Well, Satan's chosen people. For out of the north there come up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. So we don't know if this is coming through Canada or it's a nation coming up like from north of Israel, like Turkey or something. We don't know. it says out of the north, so it doesn't really say a nation in the north, so it could be they're coming in through Canada. Shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. So that means we're in redemption. Because the 10 tribes now know who they are. That happens when Yeshua appears in the clouds. Okay. So the children of Judah together with the children of Israel going and weeping, so they're mourning. They shall go and seek Jehovah Elohim. Clearly, this is a symptom or a sign of redemption. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces towards, no, with their face thitherward towards, I guess you would really say, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not. Well, they stop in the wilderness first to pass under the rod and enter into the bond of the covenant. You can read about that in Ezekiel chapter 20, beginning in verse 33 to the end of the chapter. My people have been lost sheep, reminds us of the lost tribes, right? Their shepherds, the rabbis, have caused them to go astray, keep them out of Israel. They have, see, the rabbis will tell the Jews, Israel's not for everybody. See? Does Jehovah ever say that? Does Yeshua ever say that? That Israel's not for all the Jews? No. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place, which is Israel. When they serve Jehovah, it's a resting place. When they don't serve Jehovah, like now, it's not very restful. All that found them have devoured them. Their adversaries said, we offend not because they have sinned against Jehovah, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. So they say it's okay to kill the Jews because they sin. And then the rabbis and those that hate the Jews keep them in sin with the Talmud and the Kabbalah and the practices and the idols and all the other garbage they put on the poor people. Remove out of the midst of Babel and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans. That's America. And be as the he-goats before the flocks. The he-goats are tough. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babel an assembly of great nations from the north. So they're coming, heathen nations coming from the north. Well, heathens, it says, actually, going the north. So we're back to Canada again. I don't believe it's the Canadian people rising up against us per se. I think it's enemy invaders passing into America through Canada. And they shall set themselves in array against her from thence, and she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. Well, the arrows could be the missiles. Actually, an arrow could be interpreted as a missile, or just a missile. Missile, as we know, is a much bigger arrow. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Jehovah. So all of the ones that loot her, that spoil, are going to be satisfied. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of my heritage. That's the Jews, that's Israel. What's Trump doing today? Protecting the enemies of Israel, keeping us from getting our land. Let's not kid ourselves. O you destroyers of my heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. You see, what America trying to do, and the nations, right after 1948, May 15th, they started having the nations attack Israel, and it didn't do well. They kept losing. They kept doing it over and over again. Then they finally gave up, and then they made Israel give the Sinai Peninsula back, which it did. Jimmy Carter pulled that one off, and then they had them give Gaza back, which they did. And now Gaza rised up against Israel with violence, and they don't like that because they say, don't do that because Jehovah's going to help Israel and they're going to get the land back. So Biden and Trump kept pushing Netanyahu, peace, 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 and making sure Netanyahu didn't have the ability to declare a great victory to the people and get them interested in more wars, and he wouldn't let us take Gaza back. See, the ultimate end of it rising up again is we move back into Gaza. Then that's the end of that. We move into Lebanon. Okay. They're not happy with the Houthis. Trump was attacking the Houthis and Great Britain, but they had to stop because they were getting the loss of ships. Their ships were getting hit. Planes were going in to drink. So they stopped. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations, the most recent of the nations, God only has 70 nations, is America, shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Well, that hasn't happened yet. Because of the wrath of Jehovah, it shall be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. It'll be, it will not be inhabited, it'll be desolate. No people will be living there. Everyone that goeth by Babel shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. That's not the case in Iraq today, by the way. Put yourselves in array against Babel round about. You that bendeth the bow, and shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. I think there's going to be a lot of missiles coming in. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, that means surrender. Our foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah, take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. Cut off the sower from Babel, and him that handleth the sickle. So the sower, the ones that plant the seeds, the crops, the agriculture, the sickle are ones that harvest it. These are the illegals that come in to work on the agriculture in America. And him that handleth the sickle in the time of the harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword. They're not going to be there. The oppressing sword could be, someone pointed this out to me, ICE and the FBI and customs and immigration getting them arrested. Okay, that's an oppressing sword. It could be something else, but it could be that. So this could already be in place. They shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. To a good extent, this already happened with these people. These are not sleeper agents. These are people that come up to America not to deal drugs and stuff, but to work. Israel in the agriculture, Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. Now, that's speaking, unless things change, of Trump. Nebuchadnezzar, this Nebuchadnezzar is not the old Nebuchadnezzar. Not the same thing. This is the American leader. So Trump could get a heart attack and a new one could come along, but right now Trump's the contender. I'll be right back. So this Nebuchadnezzar is Trump. Okay. Now some people aren't going to agree with that. That's their business, I guess. Not yet. What? My test run of the GoPro was a huge success. Oh, good. All right. Broken his bones. So America is going to do bad things to us. Remember, America has 58,000 soldiers in the land of Israel that we haven't taken back yet. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. We haven't taken it back yet, but they're keeping it there. Okay. Therefore, don't think they're not protecting the land from us. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the God of Israel. Does the church really ever talk about that? Or they call him the God of the church? Behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land. That's America. As I have punished the king of Assyria. And I believe that leads us to assassination, and that might happen to Trump. And I will bring again the habitation, his habitation. Okay, I will bring Israel again to his habitation. That's the land of Israel. And he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. Now that's post-redemption. And the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Church doesn't talk about that. Go up against the land of Merathaim. He's referring to America, kids. Even against it and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Waste and utterly destroy after them, saith Jehovah, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder? How can you argue that America is not the hammer of the whole earth? It's pretty ridiculous to make that argument. And broken, cut asunder and broken. How is Babel become a desolation among the Goyim, among the heathens? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou also taken, O Babel. The snare is not really for Trump, it's for the country of America. And thou wast not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. And that's what they do. Jehovah hath opened his armory and has brought forth the weapons of his anger, his indignation. This is the work of Adonai Adonai Jehovah, of hosts, of armies, in the land of the Chaldeans, the witches. Come against her from the utmost border. Now, the utmost border, what is that? Hawaii? I don't think so. Alaska, probably. I don't see a fit if it's Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, or Hawaii. The utmost border, Alaska, fits in with the north. Open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks. Let them go down to the slaughter. The bullocks, I think, are the bulls, which are the law enforcement people. I believe. I could be wrong. Woe unto them. Their day is come, the time of their visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babel, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. The Babylonians did the temple in, took all the artifacts away and all that. So it's the same unclean spirits working with the Babylonians, the original ones, as with America. That's why he's saying that. That flee and escape out of the land. If they're declaring it in Zion, they came to Israel, so that's the next great Exodus. See, all the true believers are in Israel, and all Israel shall be saved. But the church doesn't teach that. They say, we're not Israel, we stand next to Israel. That's a cruel joke Satan plays on the church. Call together the archer against Babel, all you that bear the bow, camp against it round about, let none thereof escape. So I believe the second Exodus would start before this happens, because they escape. Let none thereof escape. Recompense, year of recompenses, recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done. Do unto her, for she hath been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. And that's Trump. That's America. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, sleeper agents, and all her men of war shall be cut off. That means dead in that day. So all the soldiers, all the military is going to die because it's so wicked. They're all dedicated to what the Satan bot leaders do and say to them, well, you got to go kill these people. And they say, okay, we go. That's what happens. Therefore shall her young men fall in the street, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day. That's the day of vengeance, which is in between year of recompenses, or the period of recompenses, and the period of redemption. It's actually, I think, the transition day when you're going out from recompenses into redemption. Behold, I think that's the day that Yeshua appears, which brings us out of the day, the vengeance day, into the redemption. Behold, I am against thee. But when you read the scriptures, the day of vengeance is associated with recompenses and with redemption. So, pretty interesting. I am against thee, O thou most proud. That's America. Saith Adonai Yehovah of armies, for thy day is come, the time I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall. Those are the Satan bots, they're the proud ones. And none shall raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Well, I'm telling you, all year there's fires breaking out every day in America, and people don't want to believe it. I report them on Telegram. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, or armies, the children of Israel and the children of Judah, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, Judah and Levi, were oppressed together. All that took them captive held them fast, and they refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong, the year of redemption. Period. It's really not a calendar year, it's a period of time of redemption. He shall thoroughly plead. No, it's judge. He shall thoroughly judge their cause, that he may give rest to the land. Ah, how sweet that'll be. And disquiet the inhabitants of Babel. Well, that's happening now. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Jehovah, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. That means they're going to get killed in war. A sword is upon the liars, the Satan bots, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, the leaders, the Satan bots, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots, and upon all their mingled people. Is in America the melting pot, mingled people, that are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women, very scared, clutching their guts like a woman in travail. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. What did I just finish telling you about the Rio Grande River? It's a lot of water drying up. For it is the land of graven images, Statue of Liberty, the woman on the roof of the Capitol building. There's millions of their images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert, with the wild beasts of the islands, shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell there. And it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation to generation. That's how much he hates America. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Jehovah, shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell there. See, they never dwelled there again in Sodom and Gomorrah. You can go there and it still smells the sulfur from the fire and brimstone. You can pick it up. So what happened is it came on them suddenly. And that's how it's going to happen in America. And it's permanent. It never comes back. The country never comes back. Like the days of Noah, it comes on them suddenly and it never comes back. So they're going to keep believing it's never going to happen until it happens. If that wasn't the case, then it wouldn't be like the days of Sodom and like the times of Noah. Okay. Behold, the people shall come from the north. There we go again. And great heathens and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array, like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. Mm-hmm. The king of Babylon, that would be this Nebuchadnezzar, has heard the report of them. The word president and prime minister doesn't appear in the Bible. The concept of a democracy doesn't appear in the Bible. The king of Babylon has heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Birth pangs. Behold, he shall come up like, so, he's basically acting like a woman in travail, the birth of the nation in a day. And that's when Yeshua appears in the clouds and they get redemption. That's the birth of a nation in a day, not 1948. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of the Jordan unto the inhabitation of the strong. This is probably America doing evil in our sight. Swelling of the Jordan. The Jordan River would be a long walk from where I'm sitting right now. It's not far. It feeds the Sea of Galilee. Unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her. For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? I think he's talking about either Yeshua or Elijah or Enoch. And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? I believe that's Yeshua. Therefore, hear you, that's what I think, hear you the counsel of Jehovah that he hath taken against Babel, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth, the land, is moved, and the cry is heard among the heathen. (51:1). Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will raise up against Babel and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, a destroying wind, and will send unto Babel fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about, against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadine, and spare you not her young men, destroy you utterly all her army. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel hath not been forsaken. In other words, God didn't walk away and forget about Israel. It got punished. Nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, that's America, and deliver every man his soul, being not cut off in her lawlessness. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. It's the day of vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Year of recompenses, period of recompenses. Babel hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. been a cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. That's how they are now. Babylon is suddenly fallen. It's going to happen suddenly. You have to understand that. Suddenly. It'll be shocking surprise. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. That's kaput. Howl for her. That's mourn. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment go everyone to his own country. Her judgment reaches heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness, speaking of Israel and the true believers, which are Israel. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah Elohim. So they're going to come to Israel and explain to Israel what he did to America. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, the Median Empire. His device is against Babel to destroy it, because it is the vengeance it's the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. So he's getting back at the unclean spirits that are running America, which used to run Babel. The vengeance is the day of vengeance. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babel. You see, the daughter of Babylon destruction is an indicator of us with redemption. And you can see how many of these pieces are already in play. You see it? Okay. Set up the standard upon the wall of Babylon. That's a sign, miraculous or something. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen. Prepare the ambush, for Jehovah hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. Okay, the watchman is the border walls, the border patrol, the ICE, Homeland Security, and the military. They're the ones on the wall, right? They're there now. See how much of this has already come true? Okay, 51 verse 13. O thou that dwellest upon many waters. That's America, water of the waters. Well, you got Gulf of America, used to be Gulf of Mexico. You got Atlantic, Pacific, the Great Lakes, 8,000 rivers, and you got thousands of lakes. Okay, and they say, oh, the Vatican is daughter of Babylon. Well, they don't have the water. Then they say Mecca or Medina in Saudi Arabia. For crying out loud, they're in the desert. They don't got the water. Many waters. Abundant in treasures. There you go. Thy end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Jehovah of armies hath sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift a shout against thee. That's a war cry. That's your sleeper agents. I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars. Those are your sleeper agents crawling around. He hath made the earth by his power, Jehovah. He hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens. Do you see that there's no vacuum in heaven, the heavens beyond the firmament? It's waters. I try to tell people this till I'm blue in the face, and some believe it, many don't. And he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. So if the earth was a round ball, how could it have ends? It's a flat earth. How did the angels stand on the four corners of the earth if it was a round ball? Ascended from the ends of the earth, he maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by knowledge. Brutish by knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. The people that make the statutes are confounded. For a graven image is a three-dimensional thing. A painting or a photograph is not a graven image. Not that an idiot can't worship that, but it's not a graven image. It could still be an idol if you want to make it one. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Yaakov, the 12 tribes, is not like them. Like it or lump it, it's not like them. For he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. See, he has a special place for Israel, and Israel will be the head of the nations, not the church. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. That's Israel. We'll fight again. Not the church. The church is not his battle axe. For with thee will I break in pieces the heathen nations, the Goyim, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms, and with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. And with thee will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flocks. And with thee I will break in pieces. Let's see what the break in pieces word is. Strong's number 5310. Nafa. It's a pretty strong, shatter. Let's see what Strong says. Dash to pieces, scatter, be beaten asunder. It's curtains when that happens, Break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers, and I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, that's the Americans, all their evil that they have done in Zion, all the evil they have done in Israel. So they're really going to get worse to us in Israel. In your sight, we're going to see it, saith Jehovah. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Jehovah, which destroyeth all the earth. And I will now destroy all the earth. It hasn't done that yet. Let's check the word for destroyeth. Shemach, I think it's more like corrupted. Let's see what Strong says. Decay. Yeah, it's more like a corrupted, the whole earth, okay? Not destroyed. All the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. A burnt mountain means there's a great big thing that's nothing left of it. Verse 26, and they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith Jehovah. Set up your standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the heathen nations, prepare the heathens against her, call together against her the kingdoms, Arat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. These are the stand countries in Europe that are allied with Russia. Appoint a captain against her, cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. Rough caterpillars are probably the sleeper agents. This is interesting. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes. The Median Empire, the old Median Empire, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall remain and the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Jehovah shall be performed against Babel, to make the land of Babel a desolation without any inhabitant, except the animals, but they don't count as inhabitants, They are, but they're not, The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. That's how bad they get. The Jews were that way to a great extent in the World War II days, 1938, 39, 40, and so forth. Okay. They, to a great extent, not completely at all. They have remained in their holds. Their might have failed them, have failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places, the fires. Her bars are broken. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger one post shall, okay, read that one, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. For thus saith Jehovah of armies, the Elohim of Israel. The daughter of Babel is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her yet. A little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled his belly with my delicacies. With my delicates rather. He hath cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh, that's Israel, be upon Babel. They were behind October 7th with Netanyahu. And that's my opinion, but a lot of people share it, probably 1 million or something as a guess, I don't know. Shall the inhabitants of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. There we go. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead, and that's an indication to me that Elijah's out there working. If they're saying that my blood be on the daughter of Babylon, it sounds like Elijah's been working as a guess. 36 now. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause. It's not plead, I will judge thy cause and take vengeance, day of vengeance, for thee, and I will dry up her sea. Then that could be the Sea of Galilee or the Dead Sea. I'm not sure. Behold, I will plead, I will judge, and I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. Well, wait a minute. That's daughter of Babylon. That's not Israel. I will plead thy cause. No. That's America. That happens in America. And will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. And Babel shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and an astonishment, and a hissing without an inhabitant. They shall roar together like lions, they shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat will I make their feast, and I will make them drunken, that they may I will. Where, so they're going to be in their heat. They're going to have their, abominable, dirty parties, and they're going to, fall asleep and never wake up, drunk or stoned, I guess, and not wake up, saith Jehovah. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter. They're not going to know what's going on till it happens. Like rams with the he goats. It'll be suddenly quick in an hour and a day. How it's going to come, well, the hour and a day is the talk of the attack on DC, but it's going to happen very quick on them. It's not going to be years and years, I don't think. How is Sheshach taken? And how is that Sheshach was a place in the old Babylon, and the how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How Babel became a astonishment among the nations. See, it's going to happen quick. It's not going to be a long drawn out war or anything. The sea has come up upon Babel. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Now, you see, she had fires. I will kindle fires in and about your cities, plural. Well, you got to get the fires put out so the animals can live there. They can't live around the fires and the smoke and all that. So the water washes up over the whole country. I don't know how that comes to pass, but it puts the fires out. It also would put to death any survivalists hiding underground or something like that, I would believe, right? Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth. Neither doth any son of man pass thereby. You don't walk through it. You might go near it, but not in it. And I will punish Bel in Babel, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. And the heathen nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the walls of Babel shall fall. The walls of Babel are between America and Mexico. And it says, the nations flow to him. That's at the UN in New York. That's where they all come to meet. That's how they flow to him, to America. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver you every man his soul. See, he's talking very gently to the true believers, the Israelites. And deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. And lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall not come unto, that shall not come 1 year. Okay, it shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year. The rumors, well, we've seen that in America, rumors of war, revolution, all this stuff. Shall come rumor and violence in the land. Now, are we at that peak yet? I don't know. I don't know how bad it is. I don't think we're there yet. Ruler against ruler. I brought that out many times. Trump against the governors, the mayors, the judges. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images, Babylon and her whole land. And our whole land shall become confounded, confused, and they're confused now. And all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then shall heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babel, for the spoiler shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. See, they're singing, they're happy, they're rejoicing that this place is gone. And there are people that get mad at me for teaching this because they like the place. What's wrong with them that like the place? As Babel hath caused, they're not on God's side if they like the place. As Babel hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, maybe they don't know any better, they're new believers, I don't know. As God hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. You that I think he means the revenge. I'm in verse 50, Jeremiah 51, verse 50. You that have escaped the sword, go away, that means leave America, and stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. This is the next great Exodus. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuary of the Lord's house. So this is probably taking place in Israel, the next temple. Wherefore, behold, the day comes, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall fall, shall groan. Though Babel should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. A sound of a cry cometh from Babel, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, the witches, because Jehovah hath spoiled Babel and destroyed out of her the great voice. Said, no more big voice. Nobody's listening to America. That's the case now. Nobody listens to Trump very much. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. So the waves wash over the place. There must be some waves. Because the spoiler is come unto her, even upon Babel, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken for the Lord, for Jehovah Elohim of recompenses, for year of recompenses, or period of recompenses, shall surely requite or pay back. And I will make drunk her princes and her wise men. And in their heat, they go to have a party and they go to sleep and they never wake up, I suppose. And her wise men and captains, and her rulers and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, saith the King, whose name is the Lord of hosts. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls, that could be the long walls, I believe, of Babel, shall be utterly broken. The Mexicans will do that. And her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Well, the fires, yeah, and people are getting weary. See, it's well advanced. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Sariah the son of Neriah, the son of Messiah, when he went with Zedekiah, the king of Judah, into Babel in the 4th year of his reign, and his Sariah was a quiet prince. So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babel, even all these words that are written against Babel. And Jeremiah said to Sariah, when thou comest to Babel and shall see and shall read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Jehovah, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind the stone to it and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates, and thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall rise, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus saith the words of Jeremiah. Okay, that's a mouthful, Jeremiah 50:51, but you could see we're well advanced. Okay, so we're getting there. Don't be thinking it's just going to last forever and ever and ever. It's not. It has an end. It has an end already. All right, let's see what the live stream's doing here. Let's see. Had a lot of nasty comments. I could see that. They get taken down. All right. So I'm going to say a prayer for all of us, and y'all can agree. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Yehovah, I pray for all the true believers and their households, and me and my wife. I pray for us to have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power would flow through us, that we would keep getting healed every day as needed and required. And I pray we'd be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And also our animals and pets would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. Okay, and I pray that you would lift from us all the works of the unclean spirits, and those that serve them would be removed from us, so we don't have to worry about them, and they would be bound from ever returning to us or any other different ones. I pray the unclean spirits cannot surveillance us. They can't go in our house, see in our house. They can't surveillance or know what we communicate with other people in the flesh or on the phone or over the internet, using any one of a number of methods of communication or writing. And I pray that we would have adequate finances and then some. I pray that those of us that need work get work. I pray we have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any car or vehicle or any mode of transportation. I pray we don't get robbed, ripped off, swindled, scammed, frauded. I pray our discernment would be increased. You would pour your spirit out on us, and we would have your shalom peace, and we would walk according to your word, and the Holy Spirit would lead us and direct us. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I pray for better videos in the future. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, when you're on a Thursday with people in Israel and you're not going to see them on Friday, you don't just say shalom, you say Shabbat Shalom. I did that yesterday because maybe not all of you were going to be here today. I don't know. But that explains why I did it. So since we're coming on Shabbat in a few hours here in Israel anyway, you'll come on it in more hours than me. I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and please agree with my prayer. please agree with it. Even if it's a video, agree with it. Okay? What else can I tell you? The siege in Israel could happen anytime. Daughter of Babylon's progressing. It's all coming together. We don't know the day or the hour, and we never will till it happens. Oh boy, I went overtime today. Okay, guys, I'm out. Thank you.